All right, welcome in here. Monday Fun Day on the College Basketball Tip-Off Show powered by WagerTalk.com. I think we got 16 games scheduled here on the card tonight as the regular season comes to a close. Conference tournaments will be here before we know it. And then, of course, Selection Sunday, and then the madness begins. But a lot of opportunity and a lot of basketball to cash a few tickets between now and then. And we'll do our best here today to dive into some of these bigger matchups. And, of course, we'll have a couple of games with teams you probably go, what was that Wilberforce? So we will get you caught up with some best bets with three of the best that we have here at WagerTalk.com as we welcome in Bryan Power in the house, ready to roll here today, as is Adam Trigger, fresh from the airport, ready to go. We'll hear from his shenanigans here in just a minute. And, of course, Rob Vino, ready to put it together here on this Monday Fun Day. And like we do each and every Monday, if you're joining us here for the first time, we like to take a look back over what was another crazy weekend in college basketball and figure out, what did we learn? What did we pull out of this weekend's craziness here? And BP, I'll start with you here, man. Was there a game, a team, a concept, a trend, something that stuck out to you here this weekend?
Yeah, Joe, there's a team that sticks out to me. Look, throughout the season, at least once, sometimes twice a week, I go through the KenPom ratings, try to identify teams that are outperforming, teams that might take a dive in their respective conference races. The last domino to fall was a team in a conference, kind of in my neck of the woods, the Horizon League. Green Bay was a team that I did not think was going to be able to hold on to first place. Lo and behold, the Phoenix have now lost 3 straight. But it does appear, Joe, that one team, at least for the regular season, is going to be immune to the regression monster, and that is a team that has climbed into the top 25, USF, South Florida. On the next edition of the Power 5, which I'm going to record after we're done here, I will be talking in great detail about the Bulls. I am in shock that this team is going to be a regular season champion in the American. I don't know if they're one of the top 100 teams in America. If they don't win the conference tournament, they're not getting an at-large bid. There was a tweet that I know I shared with Trig. I don't think I actually retweeted it. Maybe I'll retweet it after the show. Talking about just how imbalanced the conference schedules in the American, and they've really benefited, has USF from not facing a lot of the big boys. Or they faced them once, but they really haven't faced any of the big boys twice. My goodness, KenPom, Joe, says USF will be a dog at Charlotte on Saturday. That's the only time USF's going to play all week. You tip your cap to the job USF has done, but my goodness, I ranked? There is, nobody. I don't even think if you ask them privately in the building down in Tampa would admit that USF is one of the 25 best teams in America, but God bless them. That's what the AP poll says as of 30 minutes ago.
It feels, and it's kind of crazy, doesn't it, though? But it feels like if we rewound the clock here, replace South Florida with FAU a year ago, and that feels exactly the same as we were talking a year ago going, this FAU team sucks. Like, who are we kidding? This FAU team blows. Who are they going to be? Keep waiting for the shoe to fall, and yet here they are in the Final Four. We're all going, well, we didn't see that happening here. Kind of feels like they're that team this year. There's usually one every year, and it just feels like South Florida can do absolutely nothing wrong at this point here, but still plenty of basketball left to play here. And Trig, you are back on the ground at home after another whirlwind trip here around the country. I think you were in Waco here this past weekend, so no doubt not a lot of very happy people in Waco there, but give us something that you pulled out here this weekend in college hoops.
Yeah, they weren't happy in Waco, Joe, when I left there, but I'll talk about the other place I went, and I'll focus on a team too. And I went to Stephenville, Texas after Waco. Ooh. As you can see, this is Tarleton State purple right here, Joe, not TCU purple. We'll talk about them a little bit later in the show. First thing I learned is the people there are awesome. They were so nice to me, took care of me the whole time. Probably one of my best experiences of any place I've gone yet. The second thing I learned is that team might be for real. They've won 8 straight. They're 8-0 against the spread in those games. But more importantly, going back before that, Billy Gillespie, their head coach, took a medical leave, and Joseph Jones, former Texas A&M standout, ended Cuse's season the year that McNamara went off and took him to the NCAA tournament, has been the acting head coach. And since he took over for Tarleton State, they're 17-5. And after this weekend, with wins over Grand Canyon, first place team, they were 24-2, went into Stephenville and lost. And then Cal Baptist, Tarleton State is now, I believe, in a tie for first, or at least a half game back and in control of their own destiny. So I'll be really interested to see them the rest of the way. But I think the most interesting thing as the WAC tournament approaches in a couple of weeks is that they can't go to the NCAA tournament. So they're going to be one of those few conference tournament teams this year that's going to go into their conference tournament, and that is their Super Bowl. That is their NCAA tournament. I know it's the case for a lot of the teams in the smaller conferences, but man, if that doesn't get, it's a stupid rule, by the way, but that these teams can't advance if they win their conference just because they're on some sort of probationary period going D2 to D1. But that's something I'll be looking at. Tarleton State, they're on fire right now. They're 17-5, I believe, since Jones took over, and they can't go to the NCAA tournament. So they're going to go into that WAC tournament with everything to play for. You know, and I know they're going to want to stick it to the NCAA when they win, and people realize they can't go. Similar to, I think, what Bellarmine did a couple of years ago, and what Merrimack did last year. Of course, Fairleigh Dickinson is only in there beating Purdue because Merrimack could not go to the NCAA tournament. I wish they would just end that rule right now. They probably won't. But yeah, Tarleton State, super impressive. They were in the flat spot of all flat spots on Saturday, Joe, coming off the biggest win in the history of their program. Laying 6 to Cal Baptist didn't matter. They ended up winning by 15. Was unfortunately on the wrong side of that one, but super impressive, and a team I'll be looking at, the rest of the way.
Yeah, a couple of big one. Grand Canyon, I think, before that. I mean, this team is for real here, and still plenty of opportunities to cash a ticket on them, too. So keep an eye out for Tarleton State here, guys, as we welcome in Rob Vino. Vino, what is going on, my man? Another great weekend for you. Congrats. Talk to me, though. What was the one game or team or situation that stuck out to you this weekend?
Well, let's start with a couple things, Joe. I'll reiterate what you said. You thought FAU blew last year. They blow this year. I mean, 2 Sundays in a row where people couldn't empty their wallets fast enough to get on FAU and watch them go down twice in a row. So FAU is not the team that they were last year. No doubt about it. Dusty Mays got his work cut out for him. You were just talking about Grand Canyon. Now, I'm on a few shows last week, and the talk is, well, if Grand Canyon doesn't win their conference, do you think they can get an NCAA bid? And you hear other teams, well, if Gonzaga doesn't win their conference, do you think they can get an NCAA bid? How about James Madison? James Madison's 26-3. If they don't win the Sun Belt tournament, do they get in? Their numbers are terrific. I know they're playing, lower quality opposition, but still, James Madison has a lot to cling to here right now, and we'll see if they can, run the table in the Sun Belt and get themselves in that way. But it would be interesting to see if they can grab an at-large, if they would make the Sun Belt tournament final and maybe lose there. And how about the nation's favorite woman, Sister Jean, is probably going to be back. Loyola Chicago somehow in a conference where every team except Loyola gets attention. You hear talk about Dayton. You hear talk about VCU, talk about St. Bonaventure. And yet the team that's in first place is Loyola. And they're not exactly great at anything statistically when you go through the metrics, but they win games. And they have enough offense. And I think they do have the number 1 ranked defense inside the league play. So Loyola of Chicago making a reemergence here as we get later into the season. It was interesting this month of February to see who was going to rise and who might fade. And a lot of teams did fade. But the risers here, mid-major, to me, Loyola, James Madison, they kept their heads way above water. And how about, again, I'd be remiss if I didn't get a little biased here and just say the resurgence of Belmont with Jacoby Gillespie again Saturday. Big win. The offense looks
Yep.
great right now, and Casey Alexander's team probably is going to be a thorn in people's side come Missouri Valley Conference tournament time. That should be good with Drake, with Indiana State, and with Belmont.
Yeah, good stuff there, Vino. Belmont showing up here. Loyola, big game against the Bonnies tomorrow, so that learn a little bit more about them. And JMU down 15 at the half against Georgia Southern. Mark Zinno and I were doing a show together, and we could not bet in-game JMU at plus money fast enough going, absolutely not. And they did come back and win that game outright. So a lot still to be determined, which is kind of crazy here this season with just a couple of weeks left before we get to the conference tournament. So we'll start here tonight with a couple of these games and see if we can't find a couple of edges. And, of course, a couple of best bets are coming your way. And we'll start here with BP here talking about maybe a little big game breakdown here before we get to the best bets. Tell me which one of these games here tonight, BP? Oh, of course you did. Drexel, because you just love dragons. So it's going up against Delaware. So tell me, with Drexel and Delaware right at the top of the board, I think here too. Still 2.5 is what I'm seeing, 138. How are you leaning in this one here tonight?
Yeah, I'll let these other guys tackle the big Monday games. Hopefully I can spit some fire here, Joe, with the Dragons involved. All right, look, we're going to start by acknowledging what happened the first time these teams played, guys. Drexel, big win, 86-67. They were laying 5.5 in that matchup at home. But since that first meeting, things have gone very differently for these two teams. We also need to talk about what Drexel did in that first meeting, okay? They shot 60% for the game, 70%, 19 of 27 from the field in the second half. That is very good and is certainly unlikely to repeat itself with Drexel on the road, especially with their poor form, Joe. Last 8 games, the Dragons are 3-5 straight up, 1-7 against the number. All 3 of those straight up wins were at home. The lone cover was against the Fighting Campbells of Campbell, who I believe Trigg will be talking about later on. They're not a particularly good basketball team. And against Hofstra last time out, Drexel was missing Justin Moore. Their offensive efficiency just plummeted. 0.88 points per possession. Let me get that out there. That's not going to cut it. And on the flip side, Delaware, they're trending in a positive direction, okay? They've won 6 of their last 9 since the loss to Drexel. They've struggled at the pay window, okay? 0-4 against the number of their last 4. But what's worth noting here with Delaware, when you look at the loss to Drexel and you look at last Thursday's loss to Charleston, okay? Those were 2 poor defensive efforts from the Blue Hens. But for the season, Delaware holds teams to 42.7% shooting from the field. So it's not like they're a bad defensive team. It's not like they've played a lot of crummy non-D1 teams in the non-conference, which, kind of makes the numbers look a little false or fraudulent. So I would expect a much better effort defensively from Delaware tonight. Drexel's 0-5 straight up and against the spread, their last 5 road games. They shoot just 42% overall on the road, 29% from 3. Market's in agreement with me. This number opened 1. We've seen it bet up. I still think there's value on the Blue Hens. That is the alma mater of former NFL MVP Rich Gannon, Joe.
Oh, nice. I thought you were going to say Joe Flacco, but okay, that'll work. That'll do as well there. But we've got other games here with some teams that people might have actually heard of. Dragons aside there. Or the Blue Hens, for that matter, there. Now, Trigg, you are going to take a look at the game I'm sure a lot of people are going to be interested in here tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern time, and involving a team you just happened to witness live and in person here as TCU will be hosting Baylor. How are you approaching this Big 12 matchup tonight?
Yeah, so this will have to double as my TCU purple as well for today. And that's another thing, Joe. All these Texas teams are all purple and white. There's got to be a reason for that. Tarleton, Abilene, TCU, Stephen F. Austin, they're all purple and white. Someone get back to me and let me know why that is. But as far as this game is concerned, real quick, as far as the total is concerned, I think it probably goes under. Very simple. There was 207 points in the first meeting between these two teams in a triple overtime game. TCU, they're 28th nationally in scoring, 81.3 points per game, but they haven't scored 81 or more in 6 straight. So I have to feel like maybe, some of that was non-conference related. Now they're starting to get into the rigors of the Big 12, and maybe that scoring rate is coming down a little bit. And then the one big takeaway, man, from the game I saw this weekend, and it's something I already kind of had thought was the case. It was the second time I was seeing Baylor play in person this year. They have no post scoring whatsoever. They struggle to score. It's not that they can't score in the paint. It's not that Ray J and Nunn and Langston, like guys like that, they can get in the paint. They have no traditional post scoring. And if Yves Missy, the 7-foot freshman, isn't the one doing it, then they are just not getting points in the paint. And that's really was probably the deciding factor this weekend against Houston. He didn't score his first basket, his first points of the game, Joe, until the final 4 seconds when he made the and one, and then of course had a chance to go and take a 1-point lead and miss the free throw. The reason I bring that up for this matchup in relation to, how Baylor's going to score here and just sort of the scoring in general is he had 25 points in the first meeting against TCU. And you look at how inconsistent he's sort of been from game to game. And I've got to imagine that TCU made a note of that and probably makes the adjustment, to maybe slow him down here. Now, Baylor's a team, if they're shooting their three, and they can absolutely torch you from the outside. They've been top 5 nationally in 3-point shooting all year long. But it's a little bit more difficult to do that on the road, where Baylor is 3-4 this season. So, I also like TCU's ability to make adjustments just in general. I think Dixon's a great coach, and they really have sort of like made the adjustments from earlier games. I know there was a game against Cincinnati they lost. They just turned around and destroyed them this weekend. Cincinnati couldn't get inside at all in that game. I think Aziz and Lake, and I don't even know if they had 10 points between the two in that game. So I am looking for TCU to make the adjustment here, and then I'll steal my friend Kelly Stewart's one of her favorite saying of, it is possible to lose a game twice, or a team might lose a game twice, and I'd like Baylor more in this spot, Joe, had they just gotten destroyed on Saturday. But to exert all of that energy to come all the way back, get to the foul line with 4 seconds left, and you basically need to hit a free throw to win, miss the foul shot, dodge a bullet at the buzzer on a buzzer beater 3 that didn't get off in time, get to overtime and then lose. And then you have to turn around in 2 days and go and play TCU, who's playing at home. And we know how hard it is to win on the road in this league. That makes me think that this spot is a lot more difficult for Baylor. I know a lot of people don't think Baylor can possibly lose 3 straight, but guess what? They lost 3 straight earlier this year, and it was TCU that beat them in that 3rd straight game in Waco. A game that if you go back to, everyone was like, oh, they can't. Baylor's not going to lose 3 in a row. They're not going to lose at home here. And sure enough, TCU found a way. This is a TCU team that's been playing better, in my opinion, collectively than they were sort of like they had that lull early in conference play. But it's a tough spot for Baylor to have to turn around and play this game. It didn't make my client card tonight, Joe. I didn't really want to lay 3. But if you're talking about, picking a side in this game, I got to side with the Horned Frogs. I just think everything stacks up for them to have some success tonight. So big game breakdown. We'll call it TCU -2.5 and the under. I'd be shocked if both of those lose.
It's funny as you're describing it. The problem with teams that have absolutely no inside post game whatsoever is they can't close games out. And Michigan State is exactly the same team as far as that goes, is they have absolutely nobody inside that they can dump the ball off into late in the game and close teams out. And it cost Michigan State yesterday against Ohio State, let them hang around. And we've already seen Baylor do exactly the same thing in some games they probably should have won. Just too damn reliant on the guards, and you get bit, and that's exactly what happened. And it's not going to be easy tonight with TCU either for them. So That's the 9 o'clock game. That's going to be the game a lot of folks are going to be looking at. We do have a couple of other games, though, that are going to be of interest. And Big 12 will also feature Kansas State at home taking on West Virginia. Kansas State kind of back against the wall here, Vino. So you kind of like that at home here, welcoming in. Well, I really do wish Coach Huggins was still around. So much fun. But he is not. Cheers to you there, Coach Huggins. What are we doing with K-State and West Virginia here tonight, though?
Yeah. Can we go back to the what we've learned portion of this show, Joe? Because what I learned is that Bryan Power can spit hot fire. When you said that, I'm thinking of that Dave Chappelle skit with Dylon, and Dylon. I'd love to have Bryan Power in a head-to-head match with Dylon, so they can see who the better rapper is, Bryan or
Look at
Dylon.
that right there.
There's a little highlight there of his high school picture too. We found. Yes. Yeah. See, you learn a little something every day, Rob Vino.
I'm telling you what, Joe. I've been doing these Wager Talk shows for about 5 years now, and I never cease to learn things. Let me build on to Adam's little purple soliloquy there and talk about Kansas State, right? Purple again. We'll talk about them. And we'll also talk about this Big 12 Saturday to Monday deal, which is tough on teams that have to travel. But, I probably shouldn't look to lay 9.5 with a team that's as offensively poor as Kansas State is. But there's always one good matchup for every team. And the first time around, K-State smacked this team 81-67. Scored 81 points on 53.8% shooting, which is rare for KSU. But more importantly, they shot almost 67% from 2-point range. It's important here because the two matchups that stick out like a sore thumb is the one thing Kansas State does well on offense is they shoot really good from inside the arc. They have the third best 2-point field goal percentage in the Big 12 from inside the arc. West Virginia's dead last in defending 2-point field goal percentages, thus the 81 points that KSU got the first time, thus the high shooting percentage. What West Virginia does real good offensively is shoot threes. Third best 3-point shooting team in the league, or second best, 37% from 3-point range. But K-State defends it like no other in the Big 12, and they're 23rd in the nation at doing so overall this season. So you've got two really, really good offense to defense, opposite side of the floor matchups for KSU here. If we throw in the scheduling spot, it's not quite the same as what Adam was talking about with Baylor having to rally back against Houston, but West Virginia put up a heck of a fight in Ames, Iowa Saturday, lose 71-64. Something rare out of them to be that close. But you put up that kind of fight, you're close at the end, and now you get on a plane and fly to Kansas State to play back-to-back with travel in another pretty raucous venue against a team that's now 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 games. So KSU's heating up a little bit as far as the betting angle is concerned. And I think it spells a little bit of trouble for West Virginia here. As a road team, 1-5-1 against the spread. I don't think that West Virginia gets close here again. Lose by 14 at home to this team. Probably lose by 14 again to Kansas State. Jerome Tang, for what it's worth, brought this team along really, really well last year incrementally. He had better talent. But this year, it seems like he's doing the same as well. The guy never stops coaching. The team never stops listening. You get a full 40 minutes out of them. I'll try it tonight. Kansas State minus 9.5 over West Virginia.
All right, laying it with K-State to get it done at home against West Virginia. And that leaves us, of course, with 3 best bets coming your way here on a 16-game slate here tonight. Another great slate again tomorrow. But in the meantime, if you're joining us here for the first time, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, become part of that Wager Talk TV family, as we have just a ton of daily and weekly content on all the big games across all sports. So hit that subscribe button, a thumbs up button if you're joining us live here on this Monday now, February the 26th, because we are going to head back to no man's land with BP here, who is Absolutely going to bestow a little knowledge because I don't know what it is with you in Delaware today, but you are going to tell us about Delaware State today taking on North Carolina Central. I don't know. You went with Delaware the first go around. Are you making it 2 for 2 with schools in Delaware here?
I am not, Joe. All
Ooh.
right. Odds makers open this line too low. People quickly pounced on it. Trig and I off air, we're having a little chat about, line moves and when is the line move too much. I still think there's some value here, laying it with NC Central. I know right before showtime, this is already up to like 5.5 in some spots. But you look at the first meeting, okay? NC Central won only by 3, but they were a 1-point road favorite. If you use that as a barometer, I thought this number should be 7. And that is obviously where bettors are the direction bettors are taking it. Now, NC Central's gone just 2 and 3 straight up their last 5 games. They had a bad loss to Morgan State, but they win by 33 against Maryland Eastern Shore on Saturday. And if they have any hope of catching Norfolk State in the MEAC race, it's going to require winning out. Fortunately for NC Central, they've won 7 straight against Delaware State. This game being at home is a big deal as well. Joe, remember, MEAC teams, along with teams in the SWAC, they don't get to play a lot at home early in the year. They take their lumps. They have to it's the economics of this sport. They have to go on the road. They play a lot of road games. But NC Central, when they're at home, they're very good. They're 9-2 straight up this year, 30-5 straight up the last 3 seasons. It's still a pretty short number here. And, oh, by the way, okay, NC Central, they've covered 7 of the 10 games they've been favored in. So I don't mind laying the points here. The MEAC has some of the worst offensive teams in the entire country. Count Delaware State among that group. They are 346th in offensive efficiency per KenPom. There are only 362 teams, Joe. And I think the worst thing you could think about with this Delaware State, they're just 2 and 3 their last 5 straight up. Even though opponents have shot worse than 40% against them, if the opponents are shooting that bad, you got to do better than 2 and 3. And at home, this stat study, if NC Central isn't number 1 in the country in 3-point percentage allowed at home, I don't know who it is. But NC Central opponents this year, when they're at home, have shot 20.4% from 3. There is no way any team in the country is allowing a lower percentage than that. I will lay it with NC Central. That is my best bet for the show today. You can go to WT.buzz/BP for my best bet overall. I have a 4% play for Big Monday. Last 2 weeks on Big Monday, Joe, I've given you Texas Tech full game and first half against Kansas. Last week, I had Va Tech against Virginia. Those 3 plays beat the odds makers number by a combined 70 points. So we're looking to make it 4 in a row on Big Monday. We're 38-22 with all best bets across all sports going back to Christmas. It's been a great college basketball season. Let's keep it going.
All right. Well, you got the market certainly agreeing with you there as it continues to move towards North Carolina Central, who still has a shot at that to share that MEAC title here. So can't lose here tonight for them, and don't think they're going to. So that's good stuff there. All right, Trig, we've got best bet time here for you on this limited slate here tonight. But you, my friend, are going to go with another UNC game here. UNC Wilmington, I believe, taking on Campbell here tonight. How are you approaching this big matchup?
Yeah, so I decided to add this as a client play. So I guess it's a 2-for-1 now that I have posted on my page, but I'm giving you one of them right here. So the other one is still up. So we'll go 2 client plays for tonight. One of them is going to be Campbell +9. Joe, I decided to punch back at the market here. It's something that I've actually had some success with. I think we added a one last week on this show with Lafayette +9 when I thought it got too high, and they nearly won the game. Led for a lot of the game. I just didn't really agree with the move here. This opened 7.5, got that up to 9. I don't think it's a great matchup for Wilmington. And I also don't think that the spot really does them many favors, having to sort of go, to Kent. It's not a far trip by any means, but they've got a pretty big home game coming up on Thursday against Hofstra. So it wouldn't be surprising to me if they overlooked Campbell a little bit here. Let's start with the matchup. You go back to the first meeting, Wilmington squeaks out a 77-74 win. But man, they really did exactly what Campbell wanted them to do in that game. because Campbell plays a lot of zone. And Wilmington, not only did they take the three, they didn't do anything else. They took 40 3-pointers in that game, Joe. 40. They made 15 of them, but still, they jacked up 43s. And that is just not like peak NC Wilmington. That's not really their game. They're much better when they're getting to the rim, getting fouled. They've got some really good, finishers at the rim that if I'm playing against them, I would want that. I want them to take 43s. That's much more appealing to me than the Wilmington team that beats you down the floor, beats you at the rim, gets to the line. They're a top 50 free throw shooting team. So, and then just going back to the fact that they play Hofstra on Thursday, a huge game, a home game for them. I don't know that they go crazy with the preparation to like change up much of what they did in the first meeting, because again, they won that game. And I think that they probably feel like they can get by here and win this game regardless. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see them fall into that trap a little bit again, because we know Campbell's going to sit in the zone. That's what they're going to do. So I wouldn't be that shocked to see Wilmington just firing up threes again. And that's just it's going to be difficult for them to go on the road and cover 9 doing that, in my opinion. It's not their preferred game. Now, the other thing, as far as just this game is concerned, Campbell doesn't get many spots where they're standing alone on national TV. And it's not a standalone game by any means, of course. You got Baylor, TCU on the other channel. But it's a pretty big sort of 8:30 p.m. Eastern. There's not many other games going on at that time. Campbell's only been in this conference for a year. I don't know if they've had this slot yet at home. They maybe have on the road. So this is really a huge game for them. Probably one of the bigger regular season games they've ever had, just from an exposure standpoint. So, you've got to weight that in a little bit. It kind of reminds me of maybe last week. I think it was William and Mary playing in a similar spot against Charleston, and they hung around. It's happened a couple of times in this league this year. So that they got to have a little bit of extra juice just from the home spot there. They have a player in Anthony Delorso that can keep them in the game almost on his own with his ability to score. And again, we're not asking. I mean, if they win, that's great, but we're fine with a close game. The other thing, Campbell, they're 9-6 at home on the year. And the final thing I'll throw to this handicap is Wilmington went on the road to play another team that kind of will sit in a similar type defense, and that was Stony Brook earlier this season. And Stony Brook won that game. Now, Wilmington was only a 4-point favorite on the road in that game, but still, Stony Brook took them to overtime and won. And what was the main sort of thread in that game to the earlier meeting with Campbell? 31 threes attempted for Wilmington in that game. It just doesn't seem like they're at their best if they're going to take all these threes, and Campbell's going to let them do it. And I don't see them really getting away from that in this game. So I'll take the points with Campbell. I think they hang around. Maybe they even pull the shock result, but 9 seems like too many here, Joe. I'll ask for a tight game, and I think it's Bowie's Creek, North Carolina tonight.
Yes, I think yes. It's, in fact, we talked about that on an earlier show as well. But the bouncing back against the market here, 7.5 as an open, now up to 9. That first time around, I believe, was 14.5, and boy, oh boy, was that a close one. So some teams just play other teams, give them their giant pain in the ass, and that seems what Campbell is here. And looking for them to do it again tonight against Wilmington. That leaves us one more best bet here from the one and only Mr. Rob Vino, ready to roll here tonight. And you are going to head back to North Carolina. Talk about those Tar Heels welcoming in the Miami University of Miami Hurricanes, and I can only imagine from the money coming in on the over that Nigel Pack is probably playing in this game here. Otherwise, I have no idea what the hell is going on with the market. So tell us, is it total? Is it side? How are you approaching this game with Miami taking on North Carolina tonight?
It is a weird pair of line movements within the last, 60, 75 minutes, Joe, where the total's gone up, but UNC's gone up as well from 14 to 14 and a half. And I think I just saw a stray 15 somewhere. So one would
Yep.
indicate that Pack is in. The other would indicate Pack isn't in. I had read this morning that Pack is out for sure. Coming from CBS's source, John Rothstein, claiming that Pack is out here tonight. So, I mean, Nigel Pack is a difference maker, but Miami's season, I don't know how big of a difference maker he really is, other than, of course, added offense. So because I thought Pack was out and did want to play over, I shaved this game down to the Carolina team total over 84.5, which has subsequently gone up to 85.5 within the last hour, in obviously in alignment with the full game total going up. But for North Carolina, I mean, it's got to be so good to get out of that like vice grip style that they had to play against Virginia on Saturday. I mean, watching Virginia just continues to be one of the worst experiences in college basketball.
Oh.
Tony Bennett's a great coach, but I mean, that particular style, what the heck? We might as well have Bo Schembechler and Woody Hayes coaching football still. They win it 54-44. They don't get to get their feet out of the mud the entire 40 minutes, but here they do. Right here, they can apply pace. Miami's more than happy to go along with pace. The Hurricanes actually have the 55th shortest possession length time in the country. They get one up there every 16.4 seconds, which is great for a transition team like UNC. Fits right into their desire to get it up and down the floor. The one big matchup for UNC here is that, you know, on the boards, especially offensive glass versus Miami's defensive glass, UNC ranks 1 in the conference and Miami ranks 11 in defensive rebounding. So the first time around when I looked, Joe, you know, you would think there's plenty of second chance points here. UNC on the year averages just a shade under 16 second chance points per contest. They got 15 in the first Miami meeting when they played in Coral Gables earlier this month. Just want to focus on North Carolina here at home because we had this play on, I think it was the WagerTalk last call show a couple of weeks ago. North Carolina team total over. That day, it was off of a loss to Syracuse and then home against Virginia Tech, another team that probably likes offense a lot more than they like defense. For UNC, they've scored 85 or more in 4 of their 5 ACC home games. The only game they didn't, they scored 76 against Clemson. In the 3 home games that they played in ACC contests, where they were double-digit favorites, they scored 96, 86, 103. They won those games by 15, 21, and 36. And the only reason why I bring that up, double-digit favorite, is that there's times when, you know, when you're winning by such a large margin at the end of game, the game goes into a rut because the reserves are on the floor. But for UNC, that hasn't happened. Like I say, they won by 15, 21, and 36. In all those instances, they're blowouts, and they just continued to score and got themselves to 86 or better. So if it's a rout tonight in the second half, I could see them again getting over this number of 84.5 or 85.5 as it is currently. All season long, they've been good at home. They're just under 90 points a game at home offensively. So it's been a real good spot. In the first game against Miami, they only shot 40.6% from the field. They only shot 66.7 from the free throw line. Those are both subpar for UNC this year. You'd expect at home they shoot better because in ACC play, their season-long averages are much better. I think it's probably your typical UNC up and down, fast-paced game. I think they probably get to 88 or better. I was a little surprised that the number was only 84.5 when I played it. So that's where we're going to go with this one. Whether Nigel Pack plays or not, we're going to depend on North Carolina to do the heavy lifting up and over 84.5 points.
Yeah, and they turned the ball over a ton in that first game, too, in Miami, which is not very characteristic of what they're doing, giving away possessions there. So opportunity for points. That's what the market thinks. Vino likes the team total for North Carolina here tonight as a best bet. And BP, you had something you wanted to add as well, my man?
Yes, we cannot let this show end without mentioning that 0-27 Mississippi Valley State plays its final home game tonight of the season.
Whoa.
They are plus 400 on the money line against Prairie View A&M. I couldn't tell you the last time Prairie View A&M has been this big a favorite on the road, but I can tell you Prairie View A&M's record as a favorite stinks, Joe. It is 8-23 against the spread the last 3 years, 2-5 ATS this year. These teams met earlier in the year. Mississippi Valley State was up at the half. In the name of Jerry Rice, I asked Mississippi Valley State, stand up. And if they're going to avoid a winless season this year, it's probably tonight. I don't know. If you got some disposable income to throw around, why not take them plus 400 on the money line? What better way to spend a Monday evening than by betting the college basketball's lone winless team to win a game?
That is absolutely disgusting on so many levels that you even brought that up, and I absolutely love it. All right, there you go here, guys. One more time to recap it for you. Here we go. Rob Vino, give me the North Carolina team total over 84.5. Trig says, Campbell, I'll take the +9 here tonight, and but old BP ready for North Carolina Central here as that line continues to move up here a little bit. So market agrees with him there. And don't forget, the only undefeated dumpster fire there is left in college basketball has an opportunity at home to get a win. So don't forget about good old Mississippi Valley State. All right, that does it here today. Don't forget, hit the like button if you can. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Make plans to come back and join us again tomorrow. Another great slate of games tomorrow. We'll be back here again, same time. Opportunity with 3 big game breakdowns along with 3 best bets. We've got you covered here on WagerTalk TV. Until then, best of luck with your plays tonight. We'll talk to you again soon. Good luck.